Okay, so let's start our work with surface integrals, and we're going to start first with scalar surface integrals. So just a reminder, when we started working with line integrals, we first looked at scalar line integrals, and then we moved to line integrals of vector fields. We are going to do the same with surface integrals. We'll first look at scalar surface integrals, and then we will move to vector surface integrals or surface integrals of vector fields. So, a motivation for scalar surface integrals. Let's imagine, so two examples. Imagine that we have a surface in space. It's a 2D surface in R3, and we know the mass density at every point on the surface. A scalar surface integral would allow us to find the total mass of the surface, right? So if we take the integral, we will find the total mass, given the f of x, y, z, the mass density function. A more real world example might be that we know the temperature distribution on the surface of the Earth, and we want to find the average temperature at a particular time on a particular day. And so, the really, really cold temperatures are at the poles, but along the equator, the sphere is a lot wider, right? It has a bigger radius. So we know that those temperatures will, when we find the average, will we will have a larger value than the ones at the poles. So if we want to find the average temperature, then a scalar surface integral would help us add up all the temperatures on the surface given a temperature distribution function so that we could find the average. And so that's what we want to look at today, or right now, before we move to vector surface integrals, which we will be working with for the rest of this chapter. So in order to do any of this work, we've got to be able to find the area of a surface, because if we're integrating a function over that surface, for example, a mass density function, then I need to know how to find the area of a surface. I need the area element of that surface. And so let's come back to a parametrized surface. Let's suppose that we have R of uv, and its components are x, y, and z of uv. So our parameters are u and v. And so as I kind of explained in the previous videos, we're basically taking a region in the UV plane and transforming it into a sphere in the XYZ coordinate system. And our transformation takes any point UV and gives it a point P on the surface of our surface P. Okay, so we want to figure out, all right, let's imagine that we want to know the area of our surface S. How do we do that? Well, let's partition the rectangle on the UV plane. So if I break this up into a lot of tiny little rectangles, we basically want to know what happens when when one of these little rectangles is transformed by our vector function onto the surface. So if we take one of these little rectangles, just going to zoom in on one of them. Let's imagine that we have a little point here. That's our point U sub k, V sub k. K just denotes which one of these rectangles we're looking at. And this is a little delta U, and this is a little delta V. And so when we take one of these tiny little rectangles, it's going to be, and we transform it using our vector function, we're going to get a little piece of the sphere, a little patch on the sphere that is not rectangular, right? It curves with the sphere. And so we want to know, how do we find the area of that little patch? Because once we find that area, then we're going to add them all up, and then adding up and taking a limit as delta U and delta V get arbitrarily small will of course generate a double integral. So we want to be able to do this. So I'm going to zoom in now on the little patch on the surface. So if we take a look at, let's suppose this is our little patch on the surface, and recall that every single point on the surface can be described using our parametrization R of uv. And let's say that this is our point P sub k that corresponds to that little UKVK in one tiny little rectangle on the UV plane. Well, we want to figure out, how do I find the area of that patch? There's something very powerful that we have, which is a lot of the work that we did with vector functions prior to this chapter. And that is, we know that we can find along one of these curves on the surface, we can find a little tangent vector. That little tangent vector, let's suppose that I fix V and I look at how my surface is changing with respect to U. Well, that would be the partial derivative of my vector function with respect to U at that point. And if I fix U and look at the little tangent vector along this side where V varies, that little tangent vector would be the partial of our vector function with respect to V at the point UK, VK, at the point. And so we know that if we take, we know we can find these things. We can find these little tangent vectors because all it would take would be going back to our parametrization and find a partial with respect to U and a partial with respect to V, and that's just telling us, how is my surface changing as U changes? How is my surface changing as V changes, holding one or the other variable fixed? And if we take the cross product of these two vectors, little tangent vectors, R U cross RV, that's going to give us using our right-hand rule, it's going to give us a normal vector to my surface at that point P, which corresponds to UK, VK in our UV plane, right? So at that point P, we have a little normal vector. Now, I need to scale this down a bit because I don't know what the length of R sub U might be or R sub V might be. But I want to make those lengths, I want to scale them down a little bit. So I'm going to multiply each one. I'm going to say, all right, I'm not going to take that long vector. I'm going to take a little teeny, I'm going to do this in green, a little tiny vector here in this direction. But I'm going to multiply that by a little delta V because I want to scale it down because ultimately I want delta V and delta U to get arbitrarily small. So if I multiply that tangent vector with a little delta V, I still have a vector in the same direction, but now it's smaller. And it'll get arbitrarily small as delta V shrinks. And I'm going to get this little tiny vector this way over here too, and multiply R sub U, or the partial of R with respect to U, by a little delta U. So that these are little tiny vectors that, because I want this little patch to get arbitrarily small in order to get the total area. So I want to scale these down a little bit so that I can eventually make delta V and delta U get arbitrarily small. And so my normal then would be R sub U cross R sub V times delta U delta V. Okay, what does the normal have to do with anything? I'm just going to call that a little n here so that we have it for later. It's going to come up later. But I want you to remember, you might remember, that there's something related to, well, that actually the magnitude of the cross product of two vectors gives us something really interesting. So the magnitude of the cross product of two vectors gives us the area of a parallelogram spanned by those two vectors. So if this is R sub V and this is R sub U, I can get the area of the parallelogram spanned by those vectors by getting the magnitude of the cross product. Now, that's not good enough because we know that our surface curves, but it's a start. So delta U and delta V we can factor out, but if we can take the magnitude of this, that's going to give us this expression right here, gives us the area of one of these little parallelograms. Of course, this is scaled down a bit, makes them smaller, right? So a little tiny parallelogram spanned by R sub U delta U, R sub V delta V, a little area of a parallelogram. And if we make those areas of those parallelograms get smaller and smaller and smaller, the smaller they get, the closer they are to approximating the area of the surface of my patch. We know there's a difference between the flat parallelogram and the curved surface, but if I take smaller and smaller pieces, we're going to get better and better approximations. So we've got here, I'm going to call this our area element for our surface. because it consists of, so this is very important, it consists of the magnitude of this cross product, which gives us the area of a parallelogram, times this little scaling factor delta u delta v. So now let's suppose, remember our goal was a scalar line integral. So let f of xyz be our mass density function. So in this case, let's suppose that it gives us mass per unit area. And I want the total mass of a surface. So to obtain total mass, we can get an approximation by saying, well, if I take the value of this function at a point in one of these little rectangles or in one of these little parallelogram patches and multiply by that little area, then I have an idea, I have an approximation to the total mass. Let's say that I have k little parallelogram rectangles, or parallelograms, not rectangles, parallelograms, and I evaluate my function over the surface, and I multiply that by this little area element, the partial of u cross partial of v, times this little delta u delta v, and so this gives me the area of one of these little patches, an approximation, right, because it's the area of a very tiny parallelogram, and I'm evaluating the density function, the mass density function over that area. So when we do this product and add them up, we have an approximation to the total mass of the surface. We don't want just an approximation. What we want is we want to take the limit as the number of rectangles on our UV plane goes to infinity, which corresponds to the number of little patches on the surface getting arbitrarily small. And then this gives us a double integral over our surface of our mass density function, f of x, y, z. And this is then times the magnitude of the partial of our vector function with respect to u crossed with partial with respect to v. Actually, I should say this is over our region on the UV plane, actually. And then this is going to be a du dv. So this is how, and of course we would evaluate our function at our parametrization r of uv. So we take the product of our function times our little area element. We're going to call this ds for surface area element. And we can write this in a condensed way by saying we are taking a double integral over our surface of this mass density function, or maybe it's a temperature function, ds, where this little ds represents our surface area element. And so this is our definition then of a scalar surface integral, where we're integrating a scalar function over a surface in R3, a 2D surface in R3. It's going to be really important to remember from this video how we got that little area element, that it really comes from generating a normal, which is the cross product of RU and RV, and then taking its magnitude to get the area of the parallelogram. We will revisit that, but make a note of what a surface, scalar surface integral means. We are integrating a function, f, on our 2D surface in R3.